Your car may be trying to kill you. Okay, well, maybe not like that. But you may be the proud owner of a death trap, or you might be in the market for one. And luckily, your friends over here at Ideal are gonna help keep you and the rest of the world safe. Here they are, the deadliest cars on the road today. Let's go. What's the car that's been tailgating me for the last 5 miles? Chances are it's a Chevy Corvette. Yeah, I know. Here at Ideal, we always recommend cheap vets because they're fun, they're fast, and they give you a ton of smiles per gallon.
The torque is just...
But, and there's one big but, I think you should probably know what you're getting into before you start shopping for one. You see, vets, especially cheap ones, are the choice of people that have a speed addiction and not a lot of money. And so, as a result, the Corvette is undoubtedly one of the most dangerous cars on the road today. And there's nothing particularly wrong with the design of this speed machine per se. It's mostly just the people that like to drive them. Reckless and hot-headed are just two of the words that could be used to describe your typical Corvette driver.
And... yep.
I get it. Who doesn't want to hear that V8 scream when you stab the skinny pedal? But if we take a step back and we look at the data, it tells a pretty sketchy story. You see, for the Corvette, there are 9.8 deaths on average per billion miles driven, which may just sound like a number to you and me, but that ranks the Corvette among the top 3 most deadly rides on the planet. And that's a fatal fact. And I think we can boil this down to really one thing. See, the people that buy them, they're not necessarily equipped to handle what the Vette has to offer. Going past the limits in a Corvette is a lot different than in a Toyota Camry. So by all means, go out and buy yourself a Chevy Corvette. Just make sure you use the Ideal Car strategies to do it. And if you do so, promise me one thing, take a high performance driving class. I think it'll help you keep all 4 wheels on the road and you'll have a lot more fun doing it, which, speaking of classes, the next car on this list was built to be a finely tuned sports car, but it forgot to pass some very important tests before it hit the road. You'd hope that any car on the road today has undergone thorough testing to ensure that it will keep you and your passengers safe. Unfortunately, the reality is that there are, in fact, cars out there that bypass these tests and are now major safety hazards. One of which is the Hyundai Genesis Coupe. This dangerous driving machine never went through the full testing process required by the IIHS and the NHTSA. And the results, they've been disastrous. We're looking at about 67 deaths per million registrations. So if you or someone that you know owns one, watch out, because it's a complete mystery as to why this car is even still on the road today. And what's even scarier, most of these wrecks involved multiple vehicles, and about 15% of those crashes were rollovers. That means that the Genesis Coupe is not only a hazard to whoever's driving, it's pretty much just a hazard to everyone on the road, which doesn't make much sense because Hyundais are usually pretty reliable and safe cars. But I guess this one just slipped through the cracks. So if you see this whip winding through lanes in your rear view, don't be a left lane Prius. Get to the right and let that thing pass you as quick as possible. You can thank your lucky stars later, because the next car on this list is most famous for transporting time travelers. But driving one could actually be as dangerous as attempting to time travel yourself. Popularized by Back to the Future, the Delorean Dmc-12 instantly became an American icon. But unlike the movies, you may never want to push it to that 88 miles per hour. The unique design, you know, those gull-wing doors that give the DeLorean its signature, awesome, cool, stylish look is actually the root of the safety problem. Yeah, those futuristic doors make it so that drivers that have been in a rollover accident have absolutely no way of getting out. I hope you're not claustrophobic.
What does claustrophobic mean?
It means he's afraid of Santa Claus.
Which means if you crash and no one happens to see it, you're pretty much up a creek without a paddle. And on newer supercars like the Aventador, if you ever get in a rollover accident, it has a little explosive in the door that will explode the door off. It's too bad that tech wasn't around back in the 80s. Luckily, the DeLorean isn't a car that you see much on the road today. I mean, it's just not a very good car. So do yourself a favor and don't go back to the past with the DeLorean. Now, no list of dangerous drives is complete without the most memed car I can think of. You got it, the Ford Mustang. The Mustang is great for younger drivers that want to go fast. And it's also a terrible choice for younger drivers that want to go fast. And hold your ponies. Let me explain. The Mustang, as you may or may not know, has been nicknamed the crowd killer, which seems like a good enough reason on its own to get the car off the road. And let me quickly explain why it got that nickname. See, it has a tendency to oversteer and dive headfirst into crowds when leaving car meets. Yeah, that's not gonna buff out, and I hope everybody was okay. Because it's not just dangerous for unsuspecting pedestrians. The Ford Mustang is responsible for 58 driver deaths per million registrations. So you'd hope this pony car would have good ratings when it comes to rollover protection, right? Nope. After a ton of testing, it was deemed the Mustang performed exceptionally poorly. So, all in all, it seems pretty obvious that Mustangs are a great way to end up seriously injured or dead. But hey, at least it was fun while it lasted.
That's what she said.
And next up is a car often in the race against the Mustang. And it's a pretty tight race if we're talking about how likely it is to kill you. With a sleek design that just speaks to the power that lies within, it's no wonder why those who want to dominate the road are more likely to drive a Chevy Camaro. And the reason that this car is so damn dangerous is precisely because of its powerful V8 engine combined with rear wheel drive. You would think that the bow tie company would know that they're dooming people to the grave when they combine these two features. And maybe they do, but maybe they just don't care. But they certainly can't play dumb now, since the Camaro has caused 5.5 deaths per million miles, which is simply an inexcusable number for any vehicle. And in case you haven't noticed, it is not the first, the second, but the third time an American brand has appeared on this list. And spoiler alert, it isn't the last. Anyway, we can't just bash the good old USA. Let's look at some Japanese coffin on wheels. And this whip, which is extremely popular among first-time racers, is one that many have had to learn the dangers of racing the hard way. And this is exactly what has elevated the Subaru Brz to the status of one of the world's most dangerous cars. And I'm looking at you. Just because you've seen Tokyo Drift like 7 times and know every single line by heart, that does not mean under any circumstance that you are ready to take it to the road and start drifting like a certified madman. Yes, drifting, it's a ton of fun. And no, drifting is not easy. And if you decide to drift around a corner in a BRZ and you hit the blunt side of a telephone pole, don't say, Brad Danger didn't warn you. The Subaru Brz is involved in 6.9 deaths per billion miles driven. And this is largely due to the fact that these cars are driven like people in Grand Theft Auto. And guys, we're not here to say don't enjoy your driving experience. You should. It should be your ideal driving experience, in fact. Just don't go tumbling off cliff sides in the middle of Hollywood Hills. And the next car we got is definitely the largest on this list. But that doesn't mean at all that it's gonna protect you in a crash. Close your eyes and try to imagine riding a hippopotamus on ice skates. And that's exactly what it's like to be behind the wheel of a Ford Explorer. This is a large car, or SUV. And unfortunately, most of the weight is concentrated in the top portion of the vehicle, making rollovers in this SUV extremely frequent, like way too often. See, the Explorer was built similarly to the Bronco 2, which itself was not particularly a safe ride because somehow, some way, Ford decided to take the design flaw from the Bronco 2, which is its top heaviness, and also implement it in the Explorer. And once they released this truck to the masses, they realized their mistake and they tried to correct it. And it didn't really work. I mean, drivers of this death trap were rolling over more than a well-trained dog. And if you thought that was a big problem, well, wait. There's more. The low pressure tires made it way too easy to lose tread while off-roading, and thus making it way too easy to get way too up close and personal with the unsuspecting tree. And I've heard that those trees don't move. So despite its name, it's probably better not to explore anywhere beyond your driveway in one of these rigs. Let us know your sketchiest stories down in the comments, because I bet some of these cars on this list and some that we left out have affected a fair amount of you guys. And with that though, stay safe, drive safe, and keep living the ideal lifestyle.